Sorry for the disturbance, guys. I'm audible to everyone. Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now before implementing the BGP, you have to remember or you have to remind it some set of rules. Okay, and those rules are three different rules are there. Okay, and those rules are, first rule is rule of a synchronization rule. So normally this says rule of a synchronization. Okay, so now what rule of a synchronization says? Okay,
This rules for what?
for before implementing the BGP, you have to remember some set of rules.
Okay.
Okay, if you won't remember this set of rules, your BGP will not get fully converged. Okay, so before implementing the BGP, you have to remember. So what do you have to remember? That I will explain you now. Okay, so first rule is rule of a synchronization. Rule of a synchronization. Somebody asked me that day, what does this means? Like, if you will go over here and say show run pipe section BGP. Okay, so if you will see, by default there is one command. Okay, once you will enable the BGP, it will by default take one command which is no synchronization. Okay, now what is synchronization means? What does synchronization? In synchronization, what happens? What exactly happens? Okay, in synchronization, what exactly happens? Synchronization means BGP, eBGP neighbor, eBGP neighbor will never advertise. eBGP neighbor will never advertise its iBGP routes. Its iBGP routes to any eBGP neighbors. BGP rule of a synchronization stated that I won't advertise any. See here, if you want to see, let me show you by practically what will happen over here. Router BGP, it won't advertise any eBGP routes. So 200. No synchronization is running. We will say what is synchronization, and then we will say here IP BGP start. Let's wait for some time to get it converged, and then we will see. Okay, now see here what exactly is happening. Okay, so BGP rules of synchronization state that I won't advertise my iBGP routes to any eBGP neighbor. Simple way, a simple rule. I won't advertise my any iBGP learning routes. Whatever I learn through an iBGP, I won't advertise to any eBGP neighbor. I won't advertise to any eBGP neighbor. See here, on router 2, what I have done on router 2, I started that rule by saying synchronization. Okay, if you want to see, show run pipe section BGP. See here, by default, it is no synchronization. But once you will enable this rule, that is what is synchronization. Okay, synchronization rule state that I won't advertise my iBGP networks to any eBGP neighbor. I won't advertise any iBGP networks. Whatever I learn through an iBGP, I won't advertise those networks to any of my eBGP neighbor. Okay, that is what we are seeing over here. For router 2, the eBGP neighbor is router 1. And on router 1, if you will see show IP BGP, okay, so you will only see the network which is 11.11 and 22.22. 22 is the connected network of router 2, that it is not learned by any iBGP neighbors. Okay, router 2 learn the network through iBGP, which are 33 and 44. Okay, 22 is the connected network of router 2. Okay, so router 2 is advertising the connected network to eBGP neighbor, but not the network which it learned by an iBGP, So that is a simple rule of synchronization. Okay, if you
Now
want
we
to stop,
synchronize, na, but still it is not there.
so here it is an opposite. If you will say synchronization, so it will stop. If you will say no synchronization, then it will flow.
Okay, okay. It is
Okay, here
opposite.
it is opposite. Once you will say synchronization, they
Now you
will
have
stop.
disabled by enable giving the command synchronization. We have disabled this one.
Synchronization. By giving a command synchronization, we stop on router 2 to advertise the iBGP learning route to your eBGP neighbor. Okay.
Okay,
Once
okay.
I will say, okay, go on router 2, and once you have seen the outcomes here, see the outcomes, you will only get the two network which is 11.0, which is the connected network of router 1, and 22.0, which is the connected network of your eBGP neighbor. Okay, the connected network of your eBGP neighbor. Okay, your eBGP, that is not the learning network of your eBGP neighbor. The learning network of your eBGP neighbor is 33 and 44. Okay, so on router 1, you are only getting what 11.0 and 22.0 network information. Now, if you will say no synchronization, it will advertise the networks, the learning networks to router 1. This is soft reset. And before the command what I have given clear IP BGP start, that is the hard reset. So never run that hard reset in your production network. See, now it is started advertising the iBGP learning routes as well. After some time, you will get 22 as well. So got this rule.
But where is 22?
22 will also come. Bro, BGP is very slow. It will also come. Huh? Is it there?
Okay.
Okay, so this is what the rule of synchronization. A simple language, a rule of synchronization states that I will not advertise my any iBGP learning networks to my eBGP neighbor. That's all. And that can be done by using a command synchronization. If you want to advertise your iBGP learning networks to your eBGP neighbor, say what? No synchronization. Okay, the word or the term is different. Opposite. Synchronization means what? They will stop flowing. Okay, no synchronization means what? They will start flowing the iBGP information. Got the point? Next rule is
now we can ping for R1 to IBGP
no,
numbers.
no, still not. Okay.
So, that 22 network, 33 network, 44 network are the advertised network in the iBGP routers.
Which network? Which network? 33 and 44. 33 and 44 is the advertised network of iBGP to router 2 for router 2.
Can you once show it in router 2, sir?
Show it on router 2. On router 2, if you will see, show run 5 sections. BGP. Okay. Router R. 22 is the connected network. Okay. But 33 and 44 is not the connected network. For router 3, it is 33, and for router 4, it is 44.
Those are loopback
those
IPs.
are the loopbacks IP of router 3 and router 4. 33 which is connected behind router 3 and 44 which is connected behind router 4.
Okay, sir, in router 2 or router 3, can you once show router 2 once? Open the console.
Router 2 or router 3?
Anything, sir. So in this, from here, we got the 33 on router 1 as well after doing that, no synchronization, right, sir? Yeah, similarly, we did neighbor for 2.2.2 and neighbor for 4.4.4. And after doing neighbor, can we add that neighbor subnet 2.2.2.2 also in the network command?
On router 3 and router 4?
Can you open router 3 once? And can you give show IP interface brief, sir? Okay, we have loopback.
22 is not the connected network of router 3. So how you will advertise from router 3?
No, 33 not this now we are only able to see 22 network, 33 network, and 44 network on R1, right, sir? Similarly,
all are there. All are there. 11, 22, 33, and 44.
Yes, sir. Similarly, for router 3, we have loopback like 3.3.3. For router 4, we have loopback like 4.4.4.
No, we did not advertise. We did not advertise a 3.3.3 network in BGP. Are you able to see any 3.3 over here? Are you able to
yes,
see?
sir. That's what. No, yeah, that's what my question is, sir. If we do network 3.3.3.3 here in BGP 200, we will see it in router 1, right?
Yeah, it will see in router 1. Okay. Once you will advertise in BGP, then you can see the same network on router 1.
Okay, sir. Okay. So when we have any device in 3.3.3 network, or at that point of time, we would advertise that one as well, right?
Yes.
As of now, like yesterday, you told only we are advertising customer related network, not our internal network. That's why we are not advertising.
Right? Okay, so that 3.3 is your internet network. What we are considering.
Yeah, I'm just making sure that my understanding is correct, sir. That's it.
That is our consideration. That 3.3 is not our BGP network. Okay, that what we don't want to advertise in BGP. That is not our customer network. So we are not advertising in BGP.
Okay.
Our consideration is only 33.33. Okay, that what we have to advertise in BGP, and that what we have advertised, and that what we are able to see on router 1.
Okay, sir.
Okay, if you have a similar networks like multiple customer network, do it.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so all you will be able to see on router. Okay.
Yes, sure. Thank you.
So that is the rule of synchronization. I think you guys have understand the rule of synchronization. Very simple one. It will not advertise any IBGP learning network to your eBGP neighbor. Okay, let me write it down over here also. Okay, it will not advertise any IBGP learned network to any eBGP neighbor. Okay. It will not advertise any IBGP learned network to any eBGP neighbor. Simple one. Okay. Now the next hop rule. The second rule is what? Next hop rule. After clearing this next hop rule, you will be able to reach on 11.0 subnet, which you are not able to reach now. Okay. So the next hop rule is a very simple. Okay. And there you will see two different things, eBGP to eBGP. Okay, so whenever a routes are exchanged between, whenever a routes, listen it carefully. Whenever routes are exchanged, whenever a network or the routes are exchanged between eBGP to eBGP. Okay, eBGP to eBGP. eBGP to eBGP means what? Router 1 to router 2. They two are each other eBGP neighbors. Is it? Okay, so whenever a routes are exchanged from eBGP to eBGP neighbor, the next hop is self. The next hop is self. What we are able to see now, from router 1 advertised a network which is 11.11.11. Okay, so while advertising from router 1, that is 11.0 network, okay, the next hop address is the self address, which is what? 12.1.1.1. What we can see on router 2. Show IPBGP, if you will see. We got the network information of 11.11.11, okay, from my eBGP neighbor with a next hop ID of self. Self means what? Router 1 self. Okay, which is what? 12.1.1.1. And I am happy with that. Why? Because I am able to reach on that network. Is it able? Okay. Now.
Not got it. Not got it, sir.
Okay. See here. The next hop rule. Okay. In next hop rule, you will see eBGP to eBGP. Then you will see eBGP to IBGP. Okay, so the first point is eBGP to eBGP. Now, in your topology, if you will see, so who are the two routers which are communicating via eBGP to eBGP? Okay, router 1 and router 2. Router 1 eBGP neighbor is router 2. Router 2 eBGP neighbor is router 1. Okay, 3 and 4, which is running IBGP neighborship with router 2. Is it clear?
Got it.
Okay, so one is what? The first rule I am saying, eBGP to eBGP. Okay, so eBGP to eBGP says, okay, whenever I will advertise my network, to my eBGP neighbor, the next hop will be my self IP address. The next hop will be my self IP address. So what router 1 says? Router 1 is saying, whenever I will advertise the 11.11.11.0 network, okay, with 11.0 network, I will advertise my self IP address as a next hop IP address. Got this point?
Got it.
Okay. Whenever I will advertise my network to any of eBGP neighbor, okay, it is advertising 11.0 network to whom? Router 2. And router 2 is my eBGP neighbor. Is it or not? And for router 2, I am the eBGP neighbor. from my router, router 2 is my eBGP neighbor, and from router 2, if you will see, I am the eBGP neighbor of router 2. Okay, so that is what eBGP to eBGP. So eBGP to eBGP, the simple rule says that next hop will be the self. Next hop will be self. So self means what?
Can you show, sir, router 1, router 2?
Can you
show this in the router 1, router 2?
Router 2, you will see with 11.0, the next hop IP address is self. Self IP means what? While advertising, while it getting advertised from router 1. Okay. From where did you get this information? 11.0 network from router 1. Is it or not? Okay. While advertising, while it get advertised from router 1, it attach the next hop IP address as a self IP address. Self IP address is what? The router 1. Okay. Similarly, if you will see on router 1, okay, on router 1, 2222 is the neighbor ID. Okay, router 2 has advertised 22.0 network. Okay, while advertising, it advertised with its IP address, with its self IP address. Okay, so this is a basic rule. eBGP to eBGP, they will always advertise with its self IP address, the next hop IP. Okay, and I am happy. Why? Because they two are able to communicate with each other simply. Okay, now the things come. When you have eBGP to iBGP. eBGP to iBGP. Learning a network from eBGP and giving it to iBGP. Learning a network from eBGP and giving it to iBGP. So now who is the router which is learning a network from eBGP and giving it to iBGP? In our topology, who is that router which is learning a network from eBGP and giving it to iBGP? So that router is router 2. Okay. So router 2 says whenever I will learn any network through eBGP and give it to iBGP, so the next hop will be what? Originating. Originating means what? Whatever comes, I will give it the same to my iBGP. Okay. What you are getting on a router 3? If you will see router 2, on router 2, the information is something like this. Is it? The similar information you will get on router 3 as well. Go on router 3 and check. Show IP BGP. What information do you are getting? Same information. What you are getting on router 2. Got this point? Okay. What eBGP neighbor says? Whatever I am getting from an eBGP neighbor, whatever I am getting from an eBGP neighbor, I will give it to my iBGP neighbor, and that is what? Originating one. Originating means what? Whatever comes from eBGP, simply I will give it to iBGP. But here, the things got lost. Why? Because I am not directly able to reach on 12.1.1.1. Who says? Router 3 says. I am not able to reach. Does it able to reach? No. So how would you be able to reach on 11.0 subnet using a 12.1.1.1 subnet next hop IP? Okay. So on router 2, you have to make some modification. Instead of self-originating, next hop originating, instead of next hop originating, you have to add what? Self. What I will say to router 2, don't do like this. Don't do like this. Okay. Whenever you advertise the eBGP network to any of your iBGP neighbor, always add your IP address as a next hop IP address. Then only router 3 and router 4 will be able to reach on 11.0. Router 1 network. Got the point? On router 2, we are removing this, the second rule, okay, which is next hop originating. Okay, instead of next hop originating, what we will use? Next hop self. Now see here how it is written. Go on router 2. Okay, comes into your router BGP 200, and for neighbor 3.3.3.3, always say what? Next hop self. Same for 4.4.4.4. Whenever you will advertise any of your eBGP network to 3.3 and 4.4, always add next hop self, your IP address as a next hop IP address. Okay, now come on router 3 and router 4 and check. Now can you see the difference? Before 11.0 subnet is having the next hop IP address of 12.1.1. Now this table is changed. With 11.0 subnet, they added the router 2 as a next hop IP address. Now we will be able to reach on 11.0 subnet. Why? Because for me, the next hop router is router 2, then I will reach on the router 1. Is it or not? Now test. Ping 11.11.11.11. Still not able to reach. Why? Anyone? Does it will be able to reach now? Yes, they will be. From customer to customer network, you want to be a communicator to each other. And the customer to customer communication is happening. Is it or not?
Got it. For internal IP, we cannot ping
internal IP address will not be able to communicate from router 1. Router 1 only have your customer ID information, not your internal network information. Thus, you advertised your internal network information in BGP? No. Is it or not?
Yes, yes.
Okay, but from here, if you will check 22, directly, they will be able to ping. Why? Because router 2 is having your internal network information through what? BGP or OSPF? Through OSPF. Okay, but if you will directly try to ping 11.11.11. subnet, you won't be able to reach. You will be only able to reach while you will ping from customer to customer. Similarly on router 4 as well. Ping.
Sir, if you ping by default, then which IP it could be using, sir? Ping.
Come again.
If you ping without that source IP 3.33.33, which IP will it be using to ping?
Any interface IP address that you can't say.
Okay.
Okay, on your router, many IP addresses are configured. If you will see on router 4, show IP interface brief. See how many different IP addresses are configured. Okay, so through any physical interface or any loopback interface, it will send a ping. Okay, so now 11.11.11.11 shows what? Your customer network. Then only you will be able to reach. Else you won't. Got the point?
Got it, sir.
Yes. Sir, can you show once again that on which router do you need to give that command?
On router 2. Why? Because on router 2, that rule is taking a place from eBGP to iBGP. If you will see here in my notepad, okay, it is like eBGP to iBGP. So here, who is the router which is sending a eBGP network to iBGP neighbor router? Okay, and the default rule for eBGP to iBGP is what? Next hop originating. Whatever I will get from eBGP neighbor, I will give it to iBGP neighbor without making any changes. Okay, so on router 2, what I said, while giving information to 3.3 and 4.4, while giving information to 3.3 and 4.4, always use your address as a next hop IP address by using this command. On router 2 by using this command. Whenever sending a information to 4.4.4 or 3.3.3, always use your IP address as a your IP address as a next hop IP address.
So this is basically saying router 2 is saying its neighbors like 3.3 that whenever 3.3 router is sending any information out, use its own IP address as next hop.
No. Come again. Tell me.
Basically, this statement when you're given R2, router 2, we have added two neighbor statements. One is for neighbor 3.3.3 and another is for 4.4.4.
4.4.4.
So basically this is saying its neighbor 3.3.3.
No,
that
it
whenever
is not
it is
saying. No. It is not saying to any neighbor. It is not saying to any neighbor. It is saying to himself only. It is saying to himself only. Okay, while advertising any network to 3.3, when I will advertise, router 2 is saying to itself only, when I will advertise 3.3, neighbor to 3.3 or to my neighbor 4.4, any eBGP network, when I will advertise, okay, to my neighbors 3.3 and 4.4, any eBGP neighbor, I will add next hop IP address as my own IP address.
Okay.
Okay, it is not saying to router 3 and router 4.
Okay.
Okay, why? What exactly it is happening? See here. Let me explain you again. If you guys are not comfortable, tell me. I will explain you again and again. But don't ask after 2 or 3 days.
No, sir, got it, sir. So basically, when we without that command, it was using next hop as R1 router, but after giving out that command, it is using R2 router.
See here.
Nice.
It is
Sir,
like
in the same topology, I have another question, sir. In this, we are using R2, R3, R4, these three routers in IBGP, right, sir?
IBGP, yes.
Yes, sir. So we have given that command in R2 router only, stating that whenever EBGP route comes to R2. So
whenever
R2 will be
an eBGP network, will come to R2, okay, welcome to R2. What by default R2 is doing? Same things they are exchanging to its IBGP neighbor. Same thing. Okay,
yes,
same
sir. Like,
thing
sir,
they are originating. What by default behavior is originating. Whatever originated from router 1, I will give it to router 3. That's all. That is my by default behavior. Okay, but here we stop that thing. What I said, whenever you will advertise to 3.3.3, your neighbor, whenever you will advertise any network to your 3.3.3, always use your address as a next hop IP address. If you want to use that address, how comes router 3 will directly hop on router 1? Okay, so what we want, okay, whenever you will advertise any network to router 3, okay, use your IP address as a next hop IP address. Got the point?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
Sir, yes, sir. I mean, in BGP, we have to use in this way, but in IGP protocols like OSPF, that feature is by default. By default, it will be like
their own IP address.
Yeah, like if we have some network if we have 1.1.1 network in R1, 2.2 in R2, and 3.3 in R3. So in IGPs like OSPF, when R1 is advertising that network to R3, so for R3, that 1.1.1 network will be showing as next hop as R2 only, right, sir?
R2 only by default.
Yeah, by default, this next hop self is by default inbuilt in IGPs.
Yes.
But in BGP, we have to do it.
Yes. Okay.
Sir, one more. Yes, one more question attached to this only, sir. So,
Yes.
so in this one, you showed us from R1 when it is advertising anything to R3, by default, it will use R1 as next hop. So we have to use next hop self IP address to make sure that R3 sees that network which is coming from EBGP as R2, right? When we use
Yes.
next hop self address. Yeah.
Yes.
So if there is another router, sir, like connecting to R3 in continuity, like another router as R4. So for R4, it will be showing as the next hop, the same network, EBGP network, which is coming from R1. So for R4 device, it will see that network next hop as R1 or R2, sir.
See here, the third rule. Okay, for your question, the answer is third rule.
Oh, okay, okay.
Okay, so that is what route reflector, the third rule. Okay, which is what route reflector, and the complete, it is known as what route reflector client is route reflector. Okay, in route reflector rule, what it says, whatever I learn, okay, whatever I learn from IBGP, whatever I learn from IBGP. Okay, now router 3 is saying, whatever I will learn from IBGP, whatever I will learn from IBGP, I won't advertise it to my another IBGP neighbor. Default.
It won't advertise?
To another IBGP neighbor.
Okay.
By default.
Okay.
See how much congested the BGP is. Whatever I will receive from one of my IBGP neighbor, I won't advertise it to my another IBGP neighbor.
Okay.
Okay. So here you have to break that rule if you want. If you want, whatever you are learning from IBGP should get advertised to another IBGP. Okay. So on router 3, you have to break that rule. Where you will break? On router 3, na? Or on router 2? No, on router 3. Okay, why? Because router 3 is the mediator person from one IBGP to another IBGP. Is it or not?
Yes.
Okay, for router 3, router 2 is an IBGP neighbor. Okay, router 3 does not know about router 1. Who is router 1? I don't care about it. I only knows it what router 2 and router 4. Is it or not?
Okay.
From router 3, you will make a neighborship of router 2 and router 4. Router 3 will not be able to make a neighborship with router 1. Okay, so what router 3 says, I only knows about router 2 and router 4. I don't care about router 1. Okay, so between router 2, router 3 and router 4, what you are running is IBGP. What you are running? IBGP. Okay, so what router 3 says, whatever I will learn from IBGP neighbor, whatever I will learn from IBGP neighbor, I won't advertise it to another IBGP neighbor. Got this point?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello. So
Yeah.
so can I say that? Yeah. So can I say that the IBGP the directly connected networks? Can I refer to that?
Directly connected? No. Please come again.
Yeah. I mean, can I refer to the IBGP as my directly connected networks? Can I also refer to that way?
Here in the topology you want to say? Here you want
yes,
to see?
in the topology.
Here you want to see. Okay.
Yeah, so I mean the IBGP, can I refer those to my directly connected networks?
No, I am not getting it. Sorry, I am not getting what you are trying to say.
So I'm saying with the IBGP interior network. Yeah, can I also refer to those networks as my directly connected networks?
Directly connected networks.
Yes.
So
Yes, I'm just asking.
you want to see this by practically? The third point?
Okay. I think after the explanation, I would like to look at this practically when I'm done.
He
Okay,
just
I
said
think
like question after everyone is done.
What?
He wants to ask his question after everyone is after everything is done.
After everything is done. No.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. So
I think he was trying to say it want to remove this link or something. No,
no, I was referring. I'm asking yeah, I'm asking the IBGP, the interior
IBGP?
border gateway protocol. Yes, I'm asking if I can refer to those as my directly connected next, because from the other diagram, you're saying it will only learn the routes from R2 and R4
Yes.
instead of R1.
See.
So if R1 is not part, I'm asking, can I refer to my?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you asking like the route reflector thing? Can you configure outside of IBGP?
Yes.
Outside of IBGP. Outside of IBGP. See. Let me explain you. That route reflector client, the route reflector, whatever the rule is, okay, that is not possible in our topology. Okay, but if you want to see it by practically, I can create a new topology for you guys. Okay, or otherwise I have to break this link.
Yeah,
but again,
we can break the one link now.
If if I will break the link, then also the neighborship will not get break. Why? Because we have created a neighborship based on loopback IP address, not on physical interface. That is the benefit of your loopback interface neighborship. Getting my point?
Okay.
Okay. If you will break a link between router 1 and router 2, okay, so neighborship will come down. Why? Because there you have created a physical interface and neighborship. But between router 2, router 3 and router 4, you have created a neighborship based on your loopback. So if you will remove one of the link also, again, router 2 is reachable on router 3 using some different resource. The neighborship will not come down.
Sir, even in EBGP, in production networks, even EBGP connectivity, they would use loopback or they would use physical?
Physical.
Okay.
If you have a source, if you have a resource, okay, to create a loopback, you can create a EBGP neighborship based on loopback also. But majorly, okay, they create EBGP neighborship based on your physical interface.
Okay.
If you want to create it on loopback, then you have to go with the IBGP, not IBGP, IGP concept. Then you have to go with creating a neighborship based on loopback. Okay, so route reflector, how you will run? See here, let me explain you in this diagram only. Okay, so you have to break that rule on router 3 only. You don't have to do anything on router 2 and router 4. Okay, because router 3 is the person which is exchanging the IBGP route from one router to another route. Okay, so here what you have to say, let me write down the command on the router so you guys will understand properly. Router BGP 200. Then you have to say neighbor. Neighbor is what? 2. Neighbor is what? 2.2.2.2. And here you have to say route -reflector client. That's all. And similarly, you have to do for router 4 as well. Route reflector client. I am the route reflector person between router 4 to router 2 and router 2 to router. Okay, so from router 3, you have to say that command for both the router. For router 2, first you will say neighbor 2.2.2. For you, I am the route reflector person. I will reflect whatever I am getting from router 4 to router 2. Same command you have to run for router 4 as well. Neighbor 4.4.4. I am the route reflector client for you. Whatever I will receive from router 2, I will give it to router. Okay, so on router 3, you have to say sim neighbor 2.2.2.2. Okay, I am the route reflector client for you. Okay, similarly for the neighbor 4.4.4.4, I am the route reflector client for you.
So does it mean that for all the router, next hop will be router 2?
All the router next hop will be router 2. For what?
So means router 3 is getting EBGP information about router 1 from router 2.
No,
It is
come again. Come again. Your
Router
voice is
3.
getting break.
So router 3 is using router 2 as a next hop IP.
Next hop IP address.
Yeah, to reach one router 1 network.
Yes.
Then what will be the next hop for router 4?
Router 3. They are the IBGP. In IBGP, there is no congestion like EBGP to EBGP, what we have seen, and from EBGP to IBGP, what we have seen. I have not told you anything about IBGP to IBGP.
Okay, for all the router, the next hop will be router 2. Okay.
How come for all the routers, bro? For router 4, the next hop will be for router 4. Okay. The next hop will be router 3, and for router 3, the next hop will be router 2, and for router 2, the next hop will be router 1. For all the router 2, how come? Router 4 will hop on router 3.
No, we are configuring neighbor 222 route reflector client. What actually?
Yes, sir. There is this confusion between role 2 and role 3. Next of self command will basically help you to make sure the IBGP neighbors
see this rule and see the content. See this rule. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, sir. EBGP to EBGP. EBGP to EBGP means what? Between router 1 and router 2, they are saying. Okay. The second rule is what? EBGP to IBGP. EBGP to IBGP means what? From router 1 to router 3, they are saying. From router 1 to router 3, they have a connectivity from router 2. And yes, what router 2 is giving? The originating. Whatever coming from router 1, they are giving to router 3. And just because of that, from router 3, we are not able to reach on router 1. Because on router 3, you are getting a next hop IP address as 12.1.1.1, which is configured over here. From router 3, you won't be able to reach on this next hop IP address directly.
Yes.
Okay, coming to route reflector.
Now come to route reflector. For route reflector, remove this. Remove this. EBGP from your topology. Okay. Remove this from your topology. Now understand only this thing. All are into same AS. All the routers are in same AS. Same AS. IBGP to IBGP. Okay. So now what it says, whatever I will learn from here, from one of my IBGP neighbor, whatever I learn from IBGP won't advertise to another IBGP neighbor. Whatever I learn from one of my IBGP neighbor, I won't advertise to another IBGP neighbor. Okay, remove EBGP from this concept. Now you have 3 routers, the 3 are connected with a same AS. Okay, so what it says, whatever I will learn, suppose on router 1 you have a network of 11.0 or make it 22, or else you will get, okay, 22. Here you have a 33. Here you have a 44. Okay, now if you will see the topology, or if you will see the BGP routing table default without applying a route reflector client. Okay, if you will see on router 2, you will see 22 as a connected network and only 33. You won't be able to see 44.0 network on your router 2. Okay, now if you will see the router 3 routing table, you will see 22, you will see 33, the connected one, and also you will see 44. But if you will see router 4 routing table, you will see 44, the connected network, and you will only see 33.0 subnet, which is coming up from your next hop router. Why not on router 2? On router 2, why you are not able to see 44.0 subnet? Why? Because see what it says, the third rule, what it says, whatever I will learn through, whatever I will learn. Okay, it is not saying for the connected network. Whatever I will learn means what? 44 is the learning network. Is it or not? I learn through some of the neighbors. Is it or not? Okay,
Yes, yes.
whatever I will learn from IBGP neighbor, whatever I will learn from IBGP neighbor, I won't give it to another IBGP neighbor. Simple.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, on router 4, why you are not able to see 22.0 network? Why? Because router 3 is learning that network. Is it or not?
Yes, it is learning.
It is learning. Okay. And the third rule says, whatever I learn from neighbor, IBGP neighbor, I won't give it to another IBGP. That is the reason you are not able to see 22.0 subnet on the routing table of router 4. Okay, so that rule you have to break over here. Over here, what do you have to say? Router 2 for you, I am the route reflector. Whatever I will learn from IBGP, I will advertise it to you. Okay, so what it is learning? 44.0 subnet, it will give it to who? Router 2. So on router 2, you will see 44.44. Same you have to say for what? Router 4. For router 4, I am your route reflector. Okay, I will reflect all the route whatever I am learning from router 2. Okay, so now what it will give? It will give 22.0 subnet to whom? Router 4. So now you will be able to see 22.0 subnet after applying that command, the route reflector.
Okay, can you show me the command?
This is the two commands which you have to learn on router 2. Sorry, router 3.
Okay.
Is it clear now?
Yes.
Okay, now Godwill, come, your turn.
Okay, so I think it's clear now. It's clear. Initially, you see, in this you move the R1. So
Yes.
I think what I'm trying to refer to, you've explained it now. that's the directly connected networks here. You know, over here we have the 22.0, 33.0, 44.4, 44. Like if you explain it here, so it's fine. I mean, what I was asking for, so it's fine now.
It's fine now.
Yes. I mean, the networks you just wrote. In other words, I can say they are the directly connected networks. That's what I was referring to earlier on.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's fine.
Okay. Yes, anyone having any doubt?
Sir, in IBGP number, because we are saying that IBGP, all those three routers as IBGP, because they are coming under one AS number, right, sir?
Yes.
So in one AS, as of now we took three routers.
Yes.
So that's why 2 is passing to 3, 3 is passing to 4. So we wrote this router
if you have
client 2 and 3. If we have 15, 20 or 50 routers connecting
so
one after the other.
On every router, you have to run this command.
Okay. Okay.
On every router, you have to give this command.
But if we have one on other network, sir.
BGP. One minute. BGP is completely manual configuration in BGP. Everything is manual.
Okay.
Why? Because BGP is very secure. You know that BGP is very secure, and this is what BGP make it popular. Why? Because BGP is very secure. You can't do everything blindly. How IGP protocol are doing? IGP protocol blindly do anything. Is it or not? You don't have to worried about this thing in IGP like OSPF and EIGRP. But what make BGP and IGP protocol different to each other? If BGP is also similar to your IGP, EIGRP and OSPF. So this is what it make it different. Okay, in BGP, everything you have to do it manually. That is why BGP is very secure. Getting my point?
Yes, sir.
This makes the BGP different to EIGRP and OSPF.
Okay.
Yes, your question.
Sir, can you connect one more router right for 54.55?
This the router fourth one, no?
Yes, 55.55. For this router 5, do I need to advise in router 3 because it is not directly connected to router 3? No?
Yes. On router 4 now, on router 4 you have to give this command, the neighbor command, route reflector command. For whom? For which routers you will put this command? Yes, tell me the commands.
For router 5.
Neighbor 5.5.5, whatever it is, the neighbor ID. Okay. Route reflector client. Okay. And
router 3.
Router 3 also, neighbor 3.3.3. Route reflector client. For you also, I am route reflector client.
So whatever the connected routers are for all those networks, whatever the neighboring routers are for all neighboring routers. Okay.
For all the directly connected routers.
Do I need to configure for router 2? It is not directly connected.
Why to router 2? Router 2 is learning anything from like to anyone else. Nobody is connected behind your router 2. Router 2 will advertise only its connected network. Is it or not?
Means we have to configure only the connected routes.
Router 2 will only advertise its connected network. Na? It is not learning any router networks from router 1. In this topology, I am talking about.
Sir, so basically, next hop self, that command and route reflector client, this command, they both are like doing the same thing, but we use next hop self command in eBGP and we use route reflector client in IBGP, right, sir?
Yes, very good. That is the last point of what I am going to say you. Okay, they both are doing the same thing. Okay. Next hop self, where you will use when you have a connectivity from eBGP to IBGP. Okay. There you have to use next hop self. Okay. When you have a connectivity from IBGP to IBGP, then you have to use a router self client.
Definitely.
Okay. So that is the last point of this, all the conclusion.
Okay. Sir, once this whole thing is done, I have a question in OSPF, sir. Our last class, like earlier to this, you explained OSPF, right, sir? Like a couple of weeks ago. I have that question. Once this is done, I'll ask that.
This is done. You can ask.
Sir, I was I was trying this OSPF thing, sir. I took this question is regarding DR/BDR thing, sir.
Tell me.
Yeah, I had the